I mean, is it okay to speak about Putin? Okay. Um, you do know that this Medvedev guy was in there for a while, don't you? Okay, what would you say? Um, hmm. He studied law. What year was this guy born in? 1952. He looks really young, doesn't he? Putin studied law at Leningrad State University, where his tutor was Anatoly, if I'm not pronouncing this stuff properly, okay, Sobich. Later, I don't know, one of the leading reform politicians of the Perestroika period. Look it up if you don't know what it is. Putin served 15, I mean, that was the whole sort of Thatcher, Reagan, wasn't it? I don't know. We were able to at least have speak openly, weren't we? Mm. Putin served 15 years as foreign intelligence officer for the KGB, including 6 years in Dresden, East Germany. In 1990, he retired from active KGB service with the rank of lieutenant colonel and returned to Russia to become pro-rector of Leningrad State University with responsibility for the institution's external relations. Soon afterward, Putin became an advisor to Sobchak, the first democratically elected mayor of St. Petersburg. He quickly won Sobchak's confidence and became known for his ability to get things done. By 1994, he had risen to the post of first deputy mayor. In 1996, Putin moved to Moscow, where he joined the presidential staff as deputy to Pavel Borodin, the Kremlin's chief administrator. Putin grew close to fellow Leningrader Anatoly Shubayas, I don't know if I pronounced that properly, and moved up in administrative positions. In July 1998, Boris Yeltsin made Putin director of the Federal Security Service, the FSB, the KGB's domestic successor. And shortly thereafter, he became secretary of the influential Security Council. Yeltsin, who was searching for an heir to assume his mantle, appointed Putin prime minister in 1999. Now, Putin has had a lot of experience, and growing up in 1952 and the changes he's made today, built 60,000 churches. That's one of the things that I had removed in a strike for on YouTube. Wow. You can't even say that on YouTube? Okay. Oh boy. In 1998, July 1998. Okay. And shortly thereafter, okay, he was appointed in 1999. Okay, that's when Clinton was president. Although he was virtually unknown, did you know that Clinton spent time in the USSR and Bernie Sanders went there for his honeymoon? Are you guys kind of putting together any of the puzzle? Like, they dug the communist stuff, the full on, Soviet era, Soviet Union was fine. I still have to. Are you guys aware of that? Okay. And there's nothing wrong with traveling there. I mean, I don't know what travel restrictions were at that point, but it's just an odd place to go on your honeymoon. I'm sure there'll be some apologists saying, what's the big deal? Yada, yada. Well, I mean, Bernie went through the Cold War and all this crap. Come on. Well, okay. Although he was a virtually unknown, his public approval rating soared when he launched a well-organized military operation against secessionist rebels in Chechnya Was Clinton involved with that? Or, or when was this? I'm sorry. I'm wearied, but now Clinton's presidency was from the beginning of 93 to 2001. The election in 92, Clinton was elected, uh, and he served until W was elected in 2000. And people had had just about a frickin' enough of him. And the tax rate was just out of control. And it's never been put back to the Clinton era tax rate. Although Obama ran on it, and so did Biden. He said to pony up, roll your sleeves up and pay more taxes, damn it. Look how that worked out. Of course, that's been buried. Worried by years of Yeltsin's erratic behavior, the Russian public appreciated Putin's coolness and decisiveness under pressure. Putin's support for a new electoral bloc unity ensured its success in the December parliamentary elections. Unity. It's kind of a good name, isn't it? Kind of, what does that remind you? First and second terms of president of Russia. December 31, 1999, Yeltsin unexpectedly announced his resignation and named Putin acting president. Promising to rebuild a weakened Russia, the austere and reserved Putin easily won the March 2020 elections with about 53% of the vote. As president, he sought to end corruption and create a strongly regulated market economy. Putin quickly reasserted control over Russia's 89 regions and republics, dividing them into seven new federal districts, each headed by a representative appointed by the president. He also removed the right of regional governors to sit in the Federation Council, the upper house of the Russian parliament. I need to insert something right here. He also made it illegal for someone with a dual citizen passport, i.e., dual citizenship, to hold office. That was rather recent. Very important. Boy, the West didn't like that, did they? Putin moved to reduce the power of Russia's unpopular financiers. They were Jewish. They were Jewish, and media tycoons, the so-called oligarchs, and they just were, you guys. By closing several media outlets and launching criminal proceedings against numerous leading figures. He faced a difficult situation in Chechnya, particularly from rebels who staged terrorist attacks in Moscow and guerrilla attacks on Russian troops from the region's mountains. In 2002, Putin declared the military campaign over, but casualties remain high. From rebels who staged terrorist attacks in Moscow and guerrilla attacks on Russian troops from the region's mountains. Where did they come from? NATO? I mean, maybe they weren't overtly NATO, but where did they come from? The questions need to be asked, but you are unallowed. You're not allowed to even ask a question or view a video that has RT on it. I honestly want you guys to think about that. And your searches are this is really serious. We are in a 100% censorship state right now. He faced a difficult situation from rebels who staged terrorist attacks. Now, I predict that this there could be a very high possibility we're going to see the same thing. But you'll believe it because it's on Fox News. And Sean Hannity said so. along with Judge Janine. And the huge, big pharma ads financing their station. Putin strongly objected to U.S. President George W. Bush's decision in 2001 to abandon the 1972 anti-ballistic missile treaty. In response to the September 11 attacks on the United States in 2001, he pledged Russia's assistance and cooperation in the U.S.-led campaign against terrorists and their allies, offering the use of Russia's airspace for humanitarian deliveries and help in search and rescue operations. Nevertheless, Putin joined German Chancellor Gerhard Schroeder and French President Jacques Chirac in 2002 to 2003 to oppose U.S. and British troops to oust Saddam Hussein's government in Iraq. There will be another video coming up. Please go to it, and you will be surprised because this is also being hidden from you. Overseeing an economy that enjoyed growth after a prolonged recession in the 90s, same thing here, sort of, Putin was easily reelected in March 2004. In parliamentary elections in December 2007, Putin's party, United Russia, won an overwhelming majority of seats. Though the fairness of the elections was questioned by international observers, of course it was, because he kind of was trying to kick them out and stripped away some of their power when he stripped away the governorships. What else did he do up here? Putin moved to reduce the power of Russia's unpopular financiers and media tycoons, the so-called oligarchs, by closing several media outlets and launching criminal proceedings against numerous leading figures. Of course, they were pissed. So they won, they have a parliament in parliamentary elections. In 2007, Putin's party, United Russia, won an overwhelming majority of seats, though the fairness of the elections was questioned by the Communist Party of the Russian Federation. The results nonetheless affirmed Putin's power, with a constitutional provision forcing Putin to step down. In 2008, he chose Dmitry Medvedev as his successor. Soon after Medvedev won the March 2008 presidential election by a landslide, Putin announced that he had accepted the position of chairman of the United Russia Party. Confirming widespread expectations, Medvedev nominated Putin as the country's prime minister within hours of taking office on May 7, 2008. Russia's parliament confirmed the appointment the following day. Although Medvedev grew more assertive as his term progressed, Obama was in office, Putin was still regarded as the main power within the Kremlin. And by the way, the same people that were around during Clinton. I mean, if you trace back to the history of many of these players, you will see they somehow had a connection to Clinton, and all of them had a connection to Obama. I don't think there's one outsider there. I am concerned. Putin was still regarded as the main power in the Kremlin, even though this Medvedev was trying to assert, make himself more, assert that he was the president. Putin was still regarded as the main power. Well, some speculated that Medvedev might run for a second term. He announced in September 2011 that he and Putin would, pending a United Russia victory at the polls, trade positions. Widespread irregularities in parliamentary elections in December 2011 triggered a wave of popular protest, and Putin faced a surprisingly strong opposition movement in the presidential race. Well, okay, of course he did. Who was running that? I mean, look what happened here. I'm not allowed to talk about it, though. Can you imagine? I'm not allowed to talk about An Electtion? A United States one? In advance of his inauguration, in March 2012, however, Putin was elected to a third term as Russia's president. In advance of his inauguration, Putin resigned as United Russia chairman, handing control of the party to Medvedev. That's interesting. Who forced him to do that? Was he forced? He was inaugurated. Well, that's okay. Well, let's keep going. In other words, he made Medvedev head of the party. Okay. He was inaugurated. That's fine then. He was inaugurated as president on May 7, 2012, and one of his first acts upon assuming office was to nominate Medvedev to serve as prime minister. What is he like hang gliding here or something? What is he doing? All right. He's piloting a motorized hang glider. Can you imagine Joe Biden doing something like that? No. Joe Biden puts on a pair of Ray-Ban aviators and drives the Corvette that his wife's ex-husband gave her as a gift while she was fucking around with Joe. But that's okay. Because it's Biden, and he's a Dem. Third presidential term. His first year back in office as president was characterized by a largely successful effort to stifle the protest movement. Opposition leaders were jailed, and non-government NGOs that received funding from abroad. That's your key. Does this remind you of anything? Were labeled as foreign agents. Maybe they were. Tensions with the United States flared in June 2013. Who was president then, anyway? When U.S. National Security Agency, and there's the same people that are there now, contractor, in the NSA, Edward Snowden sought refuge in Russia after revealing the existence of a number of secret NSA programs. Snowden was allowed to remain in Russia on the condition that, in the words of Putin, he stopped bringing harm to our American partners. After chemical weapons attacks outside of Damascus in 2013, the U.S. made the case for military intervention in the Syrian civil war. Okay, this is where I am ending it, because I just read a sentence that I think I can prove is not true. And that is where I need to sort of part ways with some of this. There are certain things that I won't talk about because of other knowledge that I have that I wouldn't be able to say here. Can you imagine this? He commemorated the 20th anniversary of the adoption of the post-Soviet constitution in December 2013 by ordering the release of some 25,000 individuals from Russian prisons. In a separate move, he granted a pardon to Mikhail Khodorkovsky, the head of the Yukos oil conglomerate, who had been in prison for more than a decade on charges that many outside Russia claimed were politically motivated. Well, they probably were. Then it goes on to talk about this stuff. I will do the second half of this later, the Ukraine conflict and Syrian intervention. This is important. This is very important. Let's just at least get it on camera in case I have to come back and read it. Unidentified soldiers accompanied by Russian military vehicles. Okay. I mean, that looks, I don't know. I can't say anything. sometimes what countries do is and Syria was one of them, and there have been others, where they will have two groups during a civil war, and then they'll send in mercenaries and start shooting at both groups so that it appears that they're actually, a war is beginning. Hey, you shot me. No, you shot me. And then back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then you've got your full scale conflict. Okay.